Today's video is kindly sponsored by jerseyfifa.com, the website you need to head to right away to get yourself the latest high quality football shirts at an extremely affordable price. And what's even better than that, you can use code jerseyfifa at checkout to get 10% off your order. The link will be in the description, but again I just want to say a massive thank you to Jersey FIFA for sponsoring the video. Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where today I'll be doing analysis of last night's massive Champions League clash between Real Madrid and Chelsea. Now, Real Madrid set up exactly how we would have expected, whilst Chelsea's shape was a little bit more complex, sometimes in a back 3 whilst also sometimes in a back 4 shape. So we'll start with when Madrid had the ball in their own defensive third and they faced quite an intense press from Chelsea, who regularly matched up against the centre backs with their front 2 shape. Werner and Havertz regularly started the press in this sort of position, blocking the path for the Madrid centre backs to progress, and for large periods of the match this pressing structure was extremely effective. Of course, it wasn't just these two players pressing by themselves, with Mount and Loftus-Cheek also regularly pressing high, and ultimately it was a team effort to put Madrid under pressure, although at times they still were out. One of the main ways that Madrid were able to get out of the press was when Kroos dropped into a deeper, more central position, from where his technical elegance on the ball allowed him to escape the press. Typically we may have expected Casemiro to play this sort of role, but it was actually Kroos who often dropped the deepest, and in this situation it was his ability on the ball that allowed Madrid to play out from the back. Another player that I thought done quite well out of the press was Ferland Mendy at left back, who often managed to ride the tackle to play forward, although there were also spells when the play was a little bit more sloppy. But we'll stick with when Madrid were able to get out of the press, and when they did this they then built possession in a 2-4 shape, with Kroos dropping into a left back position whilst Mendy pushed higher. We know that Kroos is a player that is always willing to drop deeper to get the ball into feet, and as a result it did allow Madrid to build possession in this 2-4 shape as they looked to take an element of control on the match. Personally, I thought that Kroos had a bit of a mixed game. I thought that he started well and his passing was nice and crisp. However, as the game progressed, he did become a little bit sloppy, but his role was still important. Of course, this deeper positioning from Kroos on the left hand side meant that Ferland Mendy was able to take up a higher starting position, which allowed him to receive the ball before getting into the final third. In the first half, Mendy only got into the final third on a few occasions with no real target in the centre, although as the game progressed he carried much more attacking threat in the final third of the pitch. Down the left, Mendy actually completed the joint most dribbles out of any of the Real Madrid players that started the game, and it became quite an effective way for Madrid to progress the ball down this side of the pitch. Of course, this meant that Madrid focused their play down this side of the pitch with the aim of getting the ball to Vinicius as much as possible, in order to try and get him in an isolated situation against Reece James. As soon as I saw the team sheets, I was really looking forward to seeing this battle between two excellent young players, and both players had situations when they came out on top in this duel, although Vinicius did struggle slightly. As a result, Vinicius didn't exactly have his best game, and at times it led to him becoming a little bit sloppy in possession, but as he has time and time again this season, he came up with the quality when it was needed. However, Vinicius' struggles did have an effect on Benzema and put greater pressure on him to hold the ball up and link the play, with saw him moving into different positions to carry the team forward. Typically Benzema tends to drift over to the left hand side, although in this game he often found himself much more central, in an attempt to try and bring in the forward runners down the right hand side of the pitch. Again, I don't think Benzema necessarily had his greatest game, but as always his work rate was phenomenal, and as we often see from the best players, he delivered when it mattered, and in general he played an important role. As I hinted at earlier, one of Benzema's biggest roles in the match was to link the play with runners down the right hand side, with Valverde pushing quite narrow, whilst Modric looked to push further forward. We can see just how narrow Valverde was here despite starting the match out on the right wing, and once again his ability to get up and down the pitch is so impressive, and his 12 lungs are absolutely crucial in these games. Another player who didn't stop once during the 120 minutes was Modric, whose performance wasn't up to his usual standard, however yet again a big player produced the highest quality at the key time. One player that I thought really did impress when he came on was Camavinga, and his ability to come on and change the pace of such a big game is a real indicator of how good this player is going to be. We'll see in a second that Chelsea were arguably the better side in this game, but at the moment Madrid have this ability to get the wins from nowhere in the Champions League, and I'm sure they'll be dreaming of going all the way. Now time to look at Chelsea, and personally I thought that they were the better side for large periods of the match, and it all started at the back where they were actually often pressed in a 3v3 scenario. In this sort of scenario, Chelsea were very much in a back three system, whilst Modric pushed further forward for Madrid to create a front three. However, as we've come to expect, Chelsea were able to deal with this. This is something that we've come to expect from Chelsea ever since Tuchel took charge of the club, and players like Rudiger continued to step up in these big games to help the side play the ball out from the back. After about 20 minutes or so, the match started to take shape with Real Madrid dropping deeper, and this allowed Chelsea to build possession in a 2-3 shape, with James playing alongside Kante and Kovacic. This is a slight variation of the usual possession shape that we see from Chelsea, with James slightly narrower, whilst on the left we still regularly saw Rudiger being given the licence to step forward into the midfield. This change in role did mean that James weren't able to get forward as much as usual, although his deeper role was important to deal with Vinicius, as we were talking about earlier on in the video. It was really from here that we saw Chelsea taking control of the game, with Mason Mount regularly dropping into a deep left side channel to get the ball before then looking to carry the play further up the pitch. In these sorts of scenarios, Mount essentially dropped in to perform the role of a left-sided central midfielder, to receive the ball into feet before then looking to speed up the play as he moved higher up the pitch. Mount has struggled for form quite a lot over the past couple of months, although I thought that in this game he was brilliant, with an excellent finish early on, and overall he played a key role in Chelsea's possession setup. The reason that Mount was able to find this space was because Chelsea outnumbered the centre of the pitch, with Mount and Loftus-Cheek moving central, allowing them to dictate the spaces either side of Casemiro. In these scenarios, Kroos and Modric were often caught out as they looked to pressure Kovacic on the ball, but as I said, this left a lot of space either side of Casemiro for the Chelsea creative players to exploit. This little tweak was pure tactical genius from Tuchel, and it proves why he is right up there with the best managers in the world, and it was these spaces either side of Casemiro that allowed Chelsea to dominate. As I said earlier, this allowed Mount to receive the ball in space before moving the play forward, which in turn allowed Alonso to push higher down the left hand side of the pitch and in towards the final third. We all know that Alonso loves to get forward into these attacking areas of the pitch, and he didn't really need a second invitation to get into the final third, from where he then looked to cross the ball into the centre. Alonso actually attempted 9 crosses during the game, the most of anyone on the pitch, but it was just a lack of quality on his delivery, with no real out and out target man to aim for with his cross. Moving back into the midfield, and as I said earlier, Loftus-Cheek was another player that took advantage of the overloads in the centre, to receive the ball in a pocket of space before carrying the ball wider. We can see Loftus-Cheek in that exact space that we were talking about earlier, just to the side of Casemiro, and personally I thought that he'd done an excellent job of carrying the ball out wide into the final third. Again, it was the genius from Tuchel to use Loftus-Cheek in this role, where he dropped in narrow before using his physicality to carry the ball out wide, and personally I thought he had an absolutely brilliant game. This now just leaves us to talk about the Chelsea forwards, and in the final third, we often saw one dropping whilst the other stayed higher, with Werner and Havertz taking in turns to drift away from the position up front. Here Havertz was the player playing in this inside channel whilst Werner played more central, whilst with Werner's goal he actually picked the ball up slightly wider before dribbling inside and finishing well. Personally, I thought that Werner took his goal very well and he looked lively throughout the match, but Havertz was just a little bit too quiet for my liking and also missed a big chance with his header late on in the match. Looking back on the game, I think that Chelsea will feel extremely hard done by, and in the biggest moments they just didn't quite have the luck on their side that they needed, with Rudiger slipping at the crucial moment, allowing Benzema to bury his header past Mendy. Because of this, Chelsea will obviously be feeling bad about the final result, but personally I thought that they were absolutely brilliant for probably 4/5 of the pitch, but they just couldn't get that one last chance that they needed before Madrid started their comeback. Now obviously the strange thing is that despite all the disappointment, Chelsea actually won this game 3-2, and to be honest they were worthy winners and arguably deserved to win by more goals. For this, Tuchel deserves an immense amount of credit and praise because it was his tactical awareness that allowed Chelsea to dominate this game for pretty much the entire match. But I don't know why, there was just something about the Chelsea mentality, and at times when they go a few goals ahead they seem to become a little bit complacent, and this gave Madrid that one sniff of a chance that they needed to come back and turn it around. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.